Hello, I'm Morgan Halgren, and I want to welcome you to another week of Living in Iowa. What do frozen turkey bowling, Dick Van Dyke, and the smoking habits of Greenfield, Iowa have in common? Find out next as Living in Iowa celebrates the 30-year reunion of Cold Turkey, the motion picture that brought Hollywood to the Midwest and left an Iowa impression on the entire country.
Had I not made Cold Turkey in Iowa, had I not experienced the better part of a year here.
Are we ready?
All in the Family, and everything I did following that would never have been exactly the same.
And after all that small-town Iowa warmth, we'll cool you off with the icy beauty of a wintry pond. All this coming up next on Living in Iowa. Thanks for joining us. What are the circumstances that bring out the best of human nature? We can all remember seeing remarkable displays of kindness and courage spring up out of disastrous situations. But this week we want you to witness people who shine during the best of times. The recipe for tonight's flow of good feelings comes from Greenfield, Iowa. Just mix a sprinkling of Hollywood celebrities with a dash of Iowa hospitality. Turn one small town upside down and serve immediately with cold turkey. It's dusk in Greenfield, Iowa, and a crowd is gathering for a bonfire in the town square. This isn't a fire for a homecoming game, a pig roast, or a protest rally, but it is a fire burning with purpose. First, it represents freedom from nicotine. Its fuel is cigarette and other tobacco cartons. The fire symbolizes the whole town's intention of giving up smoking, a group accomplishment that's hard to imagine, but one that they can proudly claim. The second thing it signifies is the finale of a 30-year anniversary celebration of a momentous event in the town's history. That event, the filming of the movie Cold Turkey, was what gave the town the motivation to kick the smoking habit. The movie, a comedy with an anti-smoking theme, was the brainchild of producer Norman Lear. You could say he lit a fire seen round the world, and ground zero was this small town. To this day, thousands of Iowans, as well as the artists who were involved in the film, still hold a warm spot in their hearts for the experiences of the summer of '69.
This is Greenfield, Iowa, 1999. 30 years after the filming of Cold Turkey, this town's dressing up again for an anniversary celebration.
Actor Mike Cornelison was Dick Van Dyke's stand-in for Cold Turkey and had some bit parts as well. We asked him to share his insight into the film and help us discover what the movie has meant to Iowans.
Back in 1969, when Cold Turkey was filmed, Greenfield was about the size it is today, 2,300 people. During the filming of crowd scenes on the courthouse square, the town's population nearly doubled. The event attracted people from all over the state. Lines of would-be actors stretched for blocks, and the process of getting even a small part took hours. But the atmosphere wasn't one of impatience. It was actually festive. I attribute that in part to producer-director Norman Lear. He had a great appreciation of this place. His script was rich with silly scenes, and he surrounded himself with people who made him laugh. And that joy was infectious. All the actors and crew members, and there were dozens of them, spent off hours entertaining and being entertained by the general public.
I believe it.
I remember mixing with the likes of Dick Van Dyke, and Pippa Scott, Bob Newhart, Edward Everett Horton, Gene Stapleton, Tom Poston, Peggy Ray, and Barnett Hughes, Vince Gardenia, Graham Jarvis, Judith Lowry,
You're a bullshit, Amos Bush.
Paul Benedict, and Barbara Kaysen. Graham Jarvis told us Peggy Ray also contributed to the upbeat mood.
Peggy was our den mother. She said right from the start, she said, we're going to be here all summer and we're going to have a lot of fun. And she was right.
Cold Turkey starts out with the dastardly Bob Newhart character proposing a wild public relations scheme to his employer, a tobacco company. He says they should offer $25 million to any town that could quit smoking for an entire month.
Where are you going to find a whole town that will give up smoking?
But their ploy runs awry when an ambitious minister, played by Dick Van Dyke, takes up the challenge as a spiritual quest. His first task is to convince the city council.
$25 million for Eagle Rock.
No, I won't give up smoking. No, 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 no.
And then he takes his plea to the community.
You are given the opportunity to serve your fellow man, your community, your family, and yourself.
Eventually, through pleading, arm twisting, and even blackmail, the town leaders convince the entire town to take the non-smoking pledge.
12 o'clock midnight, all smoking will cease in Eagle Rock, Iowa.
Chaos breaks out the first day as the town is overrun with irritable ex-smokers. As tempers flare, cars crash, children are chided, and even the cutest of canines bears the brunt. Okay, relax, it's trick photography. The poodle wasn't hurt at all. Really? Jean Stapleton's character barely fends off her addiction with food.
Second carrot. That's 2 carrots, 6 slices of salami, 11 gherkins, and I haven't counted the cheese, and it isn't even 7 o'clock yet. You hear that? It's not even 7 o'clock. Yeah.
But Dr. Proctor, played by Barnett Hughes, needs some drastic help from his friends.
Now listen to me. God didn't call you to destroy, but to heal.
That's right, and I'm going to heal right now. But I've never operated without having a cigarette first.
For God's sakes, let him smoke!
Graham Jarvis leads the Mott Society as they take on the task of keeping tobacco out of town.
Blockade! We are running a blockade here. And that means we got to stop every vehicle. And we got to search every vehicle.
In the final days, the plotting PR man tries his best to trip the town up. But Eagle Rock prevails, winning the prize money. But it's not a completely happy ending. There are a few more twists and turns near the end, which we won't give away. Amidst all the fun, the film did nudge people to think about smoking in a new way. Back in the 60s, it was just dawning on Americans that there was a connection between cancer and smoking. But it was considered impolite to ask someone to extinguish. And there was no such thing as a non-smoking section in restaurants or business offices. This film didn't single-handedly change all that, but it brought home the message of how hard it is to stop nicotine's addiction. And it delivered that message in a way that could make people light up with laughter. But through their smiles, the people of Greenfield decided to take the movie's message seriously. Led by smoker and Mayor Dale Yount, the city council and hundreds of townspeople really did pledge to quit smoking for 30 days.
It's amazing how people did accept it and think it was a good idea. We were hassled by a lot of people saying, oh, you don't want to do this, you will upset people. They think it's their privilege to smoke if they want to and all. But we went ahead with it, and especially after the movie company came in, it was pretty well accepted.
And in Dale's case, even though he was in the spotlight and spoke about the smoking ban to big crowds, the biggest applause he received was from his own mother.
She was happy, probably made her about as happy as anything I ever done.
Among the cast members, just about everyone had personal experience with smoking.
It took me 6 years after I left here to stop smoking.
Norman Lear had kicked the habit about 2 years before the filming, but picked it up again during a smoky crowd scene.
And one woman was, didn't know how to smoke, and Norman said, no, you got to hold it like this. And I saw his eyes glaze over. And that was it. He was back to 2 packs a day for the whole...
But Norman was able to quit again, cold turkey, as soon as filming ended. And Jean Stapleton was one of the few who never smoked, not even in the film.
And I was a total failure. I tried, but it wasn't believable. So we cut that bit of business out. And be proud that they can...
She told the crowd she wishes there were more like her.
Just don't start. Don't start smoking. You don't have to. It's not smart to do it. Right?
Hundreds of townspeople stopped smoking 30 years ago, and many who took that pledge managed to kick the habit for life. But they wouldn't have tried it if a movie crew from Hollywood hadn't chosen their town for a witty movie.
How did Norman Lear ever find Greenfield? It all started when a mutual friend asked Des Moines retailer Bill Reichart to show Norman around Iowa. According to Bill, a certain unusual building first caught Lear's attention.
We came in front of this facility, this incredible building, and I wasn't paying any attention, and he screamed, and I thought I hit somebody, and I stopped the car, and he jumped out, and he said, my God, it's exactly what I'm looking for, exactly what I'm looking for. So this is the way the movie started out.
This prominent dwelling is called Terrace Hill. Back in 1969, it was an abandoned building. There was already a movement to try to make the building into what it is today, the home of the governor of Iowa. But according to Bill Reichart, who was a state legislator at the time, the movie is what got the bill rolling. After their encounter with Terrace Hill, Bill took Norman to smaller towns in the area. As Norman recalls it, he was quickly sold on Iowa's charm.
I knew it had to be Iowa. Fell in love with Greenfield when we came here, and I looked at the town square and Winterset and Iowans. People ain't bad here.
Overlooking.
Norman and Bill became good friends, and Norman even gave Bill a bit part in the film as one of the tobacco firm's board members. Can you pick him out?
Overlooking.
The setting for this scene is the state capitol's law library. But, like Bill, Des Moines played only a small role in the finished movie. Most of the outdoor crowd scenes were filmed in Greenfield, with some interior scenes filmed in homes in Winterset. And the church scenes were set up in the town of Orient. Now that we have our bearings, let's get back to Greenfield, where Mike is uncovering more memories.
Part of what made these scattered communities seem like one complete town were the many hand-painted signs. And the reunion served as a good excuse to rescue many of them from dusty attics.
Marlon Garside came out, and he climbed to the top of the depot, and him and I got down dusty signs, and I mean lots of them. We've had a lot of fun. We really have.
These signs are hanging inside the Adair County Historical Society's museum, along with some other movie props. Museum staffers Sylvia Carr and Dee Carnes also showed us this very unusual treasure.
You call this the Extras Bible, and it has all of the extras that were in the show.
Books like this one usually end up with the film company, but Cold Turkey's Extras Bible was donated to the museum 30 years ago. Its pages are filled with a slice of life from an entire ad hoc community. In some ways, it preserves a moment in time. They kind of make you wonder, where are they now? Wouldn't you love to know?
Oh, you know, watching the movie, it's just kind of sad because so many of them are gone. Yeah. You know, you see people and oh, there's such and such. Oh, they've been gone for a long time.
These images are not only a connection with an era, they're a partial answer to the question, what is the face of Iowa? Captured on film, these faces take on a sweetness like Norman Rockwell paintings. In the scenes of people nodding off in church, Norman Lear's film playfully reveals his love of characters and of Iowans.
Has a plan, a purpose for you.
I've always divided people into wets and dries. Dries don't hug well, you know. Greenfield, Winterset, Iowans generally are wet people. This is a very huggable community.
Nobody had a better time than the people on this stage.
Iowans' love of Norman Lear can be measured a different way, by how much stuff they've collected from that time. All over town, people prepared for the reunion by putting their mementos on display.
Hey, Patsy, this is incredible. Show us what you've got here.
All right. Well,
Patsy Ahn, owner of First Street Antiques, proudly showed us an assortment of uniforms, T-shirts, and props from the film. But she's especially fond of this scrapbook, a complete collection of newspaper stories on the filming, painstakingly assembled by her mother, Helen Elliott.
My mother was a historian and also a genealogist, and she just lived to do this kind of stuff. We've recently lost her, and that's why I'm doing it, and she isn't.
Just seeing these articles took me way back. And even though I'd never met Patsy before, soon we were talking like long-lost schoolmates.
He and I became neighbors in New York. We lived a block away from each other when I moved in. And there's Eric.
Besides scrapbooks, Patsy also showed us some pieces from band uniforms. The local high school band was featured in the film, wearing the initials ER, which stands for Eagle Rock, the film's fictitious town name. Because filming often ran late into the night, Greenfield's entire high school started classes late in the morning to give students a chance to sleep in. The influence of Hollywood reached into neighboring schools as well.
Yeah, I was a senior in high school, and Norman Lear called and got me out of school, and that was pretty cool.
Bridgewater Fontanelle grad Debbie Manning played a protester in the movie.
Has your whole generation lost its sense of civic duty?
My line, you really want to know? I carried a picket sign, and it said, "Help save us from ourselves." And of course, you know, it was like disappeared out of the movie. I don't believe it.
Most of the ad hoc actors in this film never gave acting another thought.
Eagle Rock, where's your hand?
But the protester who was in this scene, young Michael Cornelison, looked closely at the profession.
The summer of my 17th year, I got my entire college education. My professors were Dick Van Dyke, Bob Newhart, Bob and Ray, Edward Everett Horton. The list goes on and on. The dean of the college was Norman Lear, and it was the University of Eagle Rock.
3 months at Eagle Rock U convinced him that an acting career was in his future. After he graduated from high school, Mike moved to New York for acting classes, and even lived near 2 Cold Turkey alumni, Judith Lowry and Barnard Hughes.
Didn't we go to a movie together?
We went to see you in Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, my.
And you hadn't seen it at the Varsity Theater.
I dragged you along to see it.
No, I made you go. And I held your head.
Mike went on to Hollywood, landing parts in made-for-TV movies.
I'm not going back to school. What are you talking about?
Showing up in television series such as The Greatest American Hero.
Next month, I hope to move up.
Holding a featured role in Family in Blue. He was the bespectacled cop in Nightside,
Chinatown. The girls are supposed to.
and got 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert in the film Lost in America.
Just to save time, how much do you want? $100.
Mike's path brought him back to Iowa, where he still works as an actor and can be seen on stage and screen.
You get a free play of Powerball.
Mike wasn't the only one whose life was changed immeasurably by this film. Producer Norman Lear had been having trouble selling a pilot of a television series called All in the Family.
Had I not made Cold Turkey in Iowa, had I not experienced the better part of a year off and on here and 4 months all together here, All in the Family and everything I've been following that would never have been exactly the same.
You would all listen to reason. I mean, you're letting us and you're totally close-minded.
Because every time a network said, "Oh, but you can't do that," there'll be a knee-jerk reaction in the middle of the country, or it won't fly in Des Moines. Those are major statements by networks. They still make them. I was able to say, "I'm a kid from Iowa. What are you talking about? I know Des Moines."
All in the Family broke new ground for television by tackling controversial topics in a sitcom. The series lasted nearly a decade, endearing itself to millions of people and decisively proving that Lear had correctly gauged the sophistication of the Midwestern mentality.
The only mistake Iowans make are they're a bit self-deprecating because they think they're hicks, but they are wise-hearted, smart, not hick people.
Iowans so impressed him that to this day he has a picture of Greenfield's town square hanging in his office. Lives in Greenfield were changed by this film, too. The town's non-smoking pledge not only changed individuals' lives, the uniqueness of the pledge also brought the town worldwide fame. This positive attention eventually attracted a few new businesses to town. But possibly the biggest change in Greenfield was the confidence townspeople earned by riding the waves of chaos churned up by such a major creative effort. They volunteered on phone banks, dodged almost endless construction, catered to large crowds, and learned to be night owls. At the reunion, no one even mentioned the discomforts of having their town turned upside down. They merely embraced the past and confidently welcomed another 2,000 visitors to town. Let's join Mike Cornelison for more of the celebration.
The Cold Turkey 30th reunion lasted an entire day in Greenfield. Before the arrival of the distinguished guests and the ensuing speeches and parades, people entertained themselves by swaying to live music, riding around the square in carriages, and bowling with cold turkeys. Very cold turkeys.
Just like I do, Dad.
Now, are you bringing any cigarettes into this town?
Visitors were entertained with reenactments of scenes from the movie.
You don't smoke? Let me sniff. No, I don't smell any cigarettes. But you've been on the farm, I can tell that.
When the Lear party arrived, former cast members and town officials greeted each other like long-lost relatives. Back in 1969, most Iowans thought Hollywood stars were as unreachable as, say, the men who were walking on the moon that summer. But what could have been casual gawking turned into camaraderie. And although many at the reunion wanted autographs and snapshots, there were some who just wanted to renew an old friendship.
Hey, you!
The little freckle-faced girl in the street crossing scene, Amy Crowds, was one of Norman Lear's favorites. He'd buy her sodas and let her sit in his director's chair. At the reunion, she ran into Graham Jarvis.
Oh, golly, what a treat.
Nice to see you.
I've been, that's the big thing that's been in my mind all along is I thought, well, I took a lot of pictures of the kids in town and on the bandstand and everything else, and I was wondering, I bet some of them are grandparents by now.
I don't have any children, but I've aged a little.
And Norman Lear was glad to see her, too.
Yes, I just saw her outside. I couldn't remember her better.
Did you talk?
Huh?
Did you have a chance to give her one?
I did give her a very big hug. I'm going to see her in a little while out there again.
The stories told during the day underlined the fact that there was a give and take between the celebrities and the townspeople. The town got a brush with unaccustomed fame. The celebrities got to relax and let their hair down.
What was it like to work here?
Yeah, it was wonderful. I think anybody that you talked to who was in that movie just had a great, great summer. Everybody was so hospitable and so friendly, and I went to more cookouts and ate more good food and just had a ball.
This is wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and seeing us. This is
The events coordinator, Jennifer Van Nostrand, had never been around the celebrities before, and she says the encounter was a good one.
You know, when I first started this and we started talking to people from California, I thought, I was just so nervous whenever I got on the phone to any of these people, and, they're wonderful.
Those of us who spent many hours with the cast back in 1969 really stepped beyond celebrity worship into mutual admiration.
We're going to pass the baskets.
Maybe that's why this was the first time a town had ever had a reunion for the filming of a movie.
Deep.
And perhaps that's why so many celebrities came back for another dose of Iowa hospitality. Graham Jarvis told us that for years after the filming, he exchanged Christmas cards with Iowa friends. And Barnard Hughes claimed that he hasn't had such a good time since he left Greenfield 30 years ago. Norman Lear had no explanation for this loving atmosphere, but he told us that he thinks of his time in Greenfield as a great romance.
Thank you. The cast and the crew and the people of Iowa, it was just a love story. Everybody fell in love with everybody. And everybody, I could have had any member of the crew here. They'd have all come back had I been able to find them and those who are still here and bring them back. Everybody. But look at what turned up here. It was a two-way romance.
Oh, Iowa, Iowa.
After an afternoon of singing Iowa's praises and being proclaimed honorary Iowa citizens, the celebrities headed for the bonfire. Dick Van Dyke kicked up his heels with a crowd-pleasing rendition of Chim Chim Cheree. And all too soon, the cigarette cartons were set aflame, signaling an end to the friendly visit.
Are we ready? We're ready.
The movie stars said their farewells, some promising to come back with their families. The townspeople remained, basking in the warmth of the leaping flames and renewing their vows to stop smoking once and for all. And whether they had been at the original filming or had just enjoyed this day of revelry, they were left with the comfort of knowing they had a part in something bigger than themselves. A group effort that was fun and was also making their corner of the world a little bit better. Cold Turkey wasn't the first major film made in Iowa, and certainly hasn't been the last. But the fire started in America's heartland by the act of making this one movie is a fire that will not be extinguished.
We leave you this week with a chill in the air as we contemplate the beauty of an icy pond. See you next week.